Full and uncut versions available on Patreon. Check in the description below. Greetings once again, Pokemaniacs. Duuz-Diz-Din back again with more of the Pokemon Adventures manga, the Yellow Arc. And now we enter into the final volume of this story arc. But in the previous volume, Yellow, Blaine, Blue, Green, as well as the members and last leaders of Team Rocket, Sabrina, Koga, and Lieutenant Surge, all entered into Circe Island, the base of the Elite Four, in order to take them on. All the while, the Elite Four were remotely manning several attacks all across Kanto, with their Pokemon, hordes of their Pokemons being unleashed, with Brock, Misty, and Erica doing what they could in order to stop these attacks. But well, it was more than just that. Even more attacks were starting to go underway. The Elite Four determined to weed out the weak parts of humanity, the most destructive parts in their mind. The hypocrisy being that they're also doing a lot of destroying in the process too. Blue and Koga took on Agatha, and while they didn't manage to down her, she still had one last trap in place in order to make sure that they were kept at bay. Sabrina and Green ended up teaming up against Lorelei, and through the use of some trickery, had them ice-cuffed to each other, throwing them off in terms of battle. Yellow and Blaine found themselves trapped behind a one-way mirror-like wall, forced to watch as Bill and Lieutenant Surge went up against a mind-controlled Bruno over a lake of acid, essentially. And just when all hope seemed lost, enter Red, who had some time ago managed to escape from the ice imprisonment by Lorelei, looking to make good on that rematch against Bruno. But at the same time, Yellow and Blaine find themselves being swept away in a torrent of water brought on by the battles going on across the island. Will Yellow manage to make it out and see Red one more time? And will our heroes manage to overcome the Elite Four and stop the devastating destruction all across the Kanto region? Join me as I find out, won't you? Alright, jumping into Volume 7. It's actually really nice to see Yellow and Green teaming up, especially considering that Yellow and Green were essentially working together at the very start of this arc, though we didn't know it at the time. Alright, let's jump in. Ooh, that's a cool cover shot with all of the various different verses. I love how Blaine kind of got booted out. Bill got booted out with the showdown against Koga. Actually, it does make a lot of sense with Blaine being a former member of Team Rocket, kinda, for the most part. So are we actually gonna see Yellow get a rematch with Lance? That's interesting. Alright, we cut over to Cerulean City, where Starmie is taken off in order to get a message out about the incoming larger invasion force. The Haunter spots it and tries to freaking chuck a rock at Starmie, but Misty sends out Krabby saying the Haunter's trying to get in the way of my Starmie. I don't think so. And she has Krabby use Guillotine on the rock, which is an awesome move. I always love that move. Doesn't, at least in my experience, at least in terms of my memories, I don't remember it doing as much damage as I thought it did, but it is a great move. Starmie's sending a message to Circe Island right now, Erica. Erica on the phone says, "Thank you, Misty. But wait a moment. There is more." Misty questions this, and Erica explains, "Do you notice something about the names of the cities that the Elite Four and their armies have descended upon?" Misty says, Viridian City, Saffron City, Vermilion City, Fuchsia City, Cinnabar. Oh, of course, the gyms. Right, yeah. And Erica says, "Indeed. The cities under attack at this moment, including my own, Pewter, Cerulean, and Celadon, are all cities with Pokemon Gym." Honestly speaking, they're the only gyms they're the only cities we normally know of in the games. I don't doubt there are other cities. Actually, no. Pallet Town. Pallet Town's not being attacked. Well, then again, Pallet Town already got the business from Team Rocket back in the previous story arc, so I think they got permission to sit out. They got a one get out of attack free card from the last time. This chapter 79, airing out Aerodactyl. And you better, dude. Aerodactyl needs a bath. Jeez. Misty questions, but what does it mean? Erica explains, saying, the data I have accumulated gave me the clue. The Elite Four make it seem as though they are striking indiscriminately, but in fact, they have been gradually focusing their attacks upon us, the gym leaders, which, yeah, you guys are a known force for good and all that good stuff. Makes sense. Doesn't it also seem as though they're trying to steal something from us? Yeah, what's that about? Misty questions, steal? Do you mean it can't be? Oh, the gym badges. It took me too long to realize that. Misty is attacked by a horde of Gengar, which, even though they're being extremely naughty, Gengar's still one of my favorite Pokemon, so he goes up on the screen right here. Bada bing. Erica says it can and it is while she's being attacked by the Shelder. The Elite Four want every gym leader's trainer badge, which ain't all the more reason to have gone after Red. He had all the trainer badges. Erica gets her badge stolen by a Shelder, while Misty gets hers stolen by a Gengar, and she says, no, my badge. Starmie, hurry! As Starmie continues to... Starmie's writing letters in the night sky, and it's the Pokemon world language. Oh, was it already established back then? At least I think it is. And they're very obtruse letters and all that. I mean, obtuse, not obtruse. Now, Starmie does that, and Misty thinks, come on, get this message to the guys on Cersei Island. Which, I have to question, how? How does this work? I don't understand how Starmie's very impressive skywriting gets to Cersei Island. I mean, I know the Kanto region ain't that big, but it's still kind of big. Meanwhile, on Cersei Island, a waterlogged Blaine, Pika, and Yellow have washed ashore a ways away, I have to assume, from where they were flooded out. Blaine stirs and goes over to Yellow, calling out her name. Yellow wakes up, but then immediately blushes and tries to hide her hair. Blaine questions, Yellow, are you really? Yellow continues to blush, saying, please, don't ask now. I still don't understand why hide it. Why hide that you're a girl? I mean, Green's a girl. What does it really matter? Yellow pops on her hat and hugs Pikachu, saying, let's just say I feel naked without this hat. Interesting. But suddenly Yellow comes to a realization, thinking, Red's Pokédex and my sketchbook, they're gone. I must have dropped them when we got swept away. Red, we got so close, and yet, but we see a bit away. Yellow's sketchbook and Red's Pokédex. Surprisingly not wet, honestly. Blaine then says, all right, Yellow, I won't ask any questions now. Looks as though we've been swept down pretty far. The enemy may be getting close. This reminds me of an old riddle. Do you know this one, Yellow? What has only one entrance but 3 exits? One entrance but 3 exits. Yeah, Yellow goes for what I would answer like a shirt. Yeah. Is it a sweater? Blaine says, pretty good. But now, if we ask what has only one entrance, but is that the answer? Okay. But no exits, would you say Cersei Island? Oh, is he saying it was a trap? Yellow says, you mean there's no way off this island unless we defeat the Elite Four? Blaine tells her, I'd say so, especially after watching Red's battle just now. They make their way throughout the cave. Blaine saying, the deeper we go, the darker it gets. If only we had a light. He says, okay, Growlithe, bring out said Growlithe, and having it light a torch for him. Blaine says, perfect, now hurry, or else Cerulean, Pewter, and the other cities will be destroyed. And as they make their way, suddenly there's laughter echoing throughout the cave. As a familiar voice says, the fates of Pewter, Cerulean, and Celadon cities are already sealed. Consider them already gone. Lance tells them, and soon Saffron, Fuchsia, Vermilion, and Viridian cities will fall to our armies. All of humanity, all its cities will be leveled. Then the world will be as I want it. Blaine turns to Yellow, saying, Yellow, shine a light throughout this cavern. Yellow turns to Pikachu, saying, okay, Pika, flash. And Pikachu does just that, illuminating Lance up on a nearby cliff of the cavern. Yellow quickly turns, looking towards the shadow of Lance, saying, "So you're alive." Lance sits perched with his Aerodactyl, sneering down at Yellow, who readies herself. But Blaine cuts her off, saying, "I'll take this." Yellow questions, "What?" Blaine tells her, "To defeat him, it'll be necessary to merge our powers. Your powers are impressive, Yellow, but, well, let's run a test first, so we're not both wiped out with the first blow." "Ah, I get it." "Watch his battle style carefully," Blaine says as he rushes in, Yellow calling out to him, worried. Lance, still with a smile, flips up his hand, saying, "Oh, you're coming at me alone? It doesn't matter to me if there are 2 of you or 100. Aerodactyl, Hyper Beam now." And since when does Hyper Beam zigzag? It was one thing with the Dragonair, but freaking Aerodactyl too? No, regardless. Aerodactyl unleashes a Hyper Beam that just zigzags throughout the air towards Blaine, blasting him back. Yellow calls out to Blaine, even more worried than before. But a figure has managed to catch the Hyper Beam in its grasp. It is none other than one of my other favorite Pokemon and my favorite legendary of the Kanto games, Mewtwo. Lance says, "What? It caught the beam. That must be Mewtwo." And Mewtwo manages to just smother the beam in its grasp. And that is a legendary. Lance laughs. "I've heard of you. The genetic Pokemon born of arrogant human experimentation. This will be interesting. Let's test out that power of yours," he says as he twirls his hand in the air. But suddenly there's a rumbling. Yellow and Blaine looking around, questioning what's going on. Suddenly, the ground below them starts to give... Wait a minute. Is Cersei Island... Is the whole island a Pokemon? As the ground below her gives way, Yellow falls in, Blaine calling out to her. Okay, no. I guess not. No. The rocks above them fall as the ceiling collapses, but thankfully they manage to survive. They look to the sky as Lance laughs, riding on his Aerodactyl, saying, "I was feeling a bit cramped, so I thought I'd open things up a little. More like give his Aerodactyl more of an advantage." Lance commands his Aerodactyl to use Supersonic, while Blaine has Mewtwo use Barrier. The 2 attacks clash, and Yellow braces herself under the protective dome of Mewtwo. Although Supersonic is start to cause his barrier to give way and push Mewtwo back. But, is that a smile on Mewtwo's face? Yellow calls over to Blaine, but Blaine says, "I'm alright, Yellow. We're not going to attack just yet. Sit tight, stay alert, watch carefully. Note his strengths and weaknesses." You know, it's only really just dawning on me right now. Is Blaine the coolest of all of the Kanto gym leaders in all of this? He's the one commanding a friggin' Mewtwo. It's pretty badass. Yellow watches silently, while Lance seems to be annoyed. Although, silent annoyance, I don't know. Aerodactyl still unleashing its Supersonic against Mewtwo's barrier. Blaine's arm starts to twinge with pain as he says, "Until then, only worry is how long this body of mine will last." So what is it? Every time Mewtwo uses its abilities, it starts to kill Blaine? Blaine then commands Mewtwo, and Mewtwo gives a nod. In Chapter 80, Dragon in Dragonair. Oh, okay. Suddenly, Mewtwo in the barrier with Blaine and Yellow starts to float towards Lance and his Aerodactyl. Yellow says, "We're floating," as both Mewtwo and Blaine smile. Lance questions, "What?" as they race towards him, crashing into Aerodactyl and Lance, causing Lance to fall off as its Pokemon. Lance very nimbly manages to land swiftly on the ground, and he brings out 2 Dragonair. Blaine says, "A switch, huh?" Well, Lance says, "Call upon the winds, call upon the thunderclouds." This dude thinks he's Thor, as his 2 Dragonair do just that, creating a storm overhead, unleashing a gale of, weather, as he has the 2 Dragonair use agility, knocking against Mewtwo's barrier. Hurricane-like winds start to cause the psychic barrier to wobble and shake. Yellow says it's almost as if they're the gods of the storm. This is just 2 Dragonair. Think if it was an actual legendary Pokemon. God, could you imagine Lance commanding a freaking Rayquaza or something? And it doesn't have to actually be a dragon-type Pokemon, but I feel like Lance would be pretty good with a Rayquaza. Really thinking about it. Wait, Rayquaza is dragon-type, okay. I wasn't sure if it was not, because sometimes even though they look like a dragon Pokemon, they're not a dragon Pokemon, but and Lance commanding a Rayquaza is not as off kilter as you might think. But Mewtwo gives a gesture, managing to cause the psychic barrier to not continue to plummet. Blaine says they say Dragonair have the power to control the weather, but these two are heightening their powers by combining the forces of wind and lightning. Alright then. I mean, yeah, that makes the most sense because they're doing the most just with two of them, but jeez. This is two Pokemon commanding their abilities. Just think if it was like a horde of them. Shows just how powerful Pokemon could be if they weren't, more docile animals. Blaine says, we're switching to attack mode. We'll have to drop part of the barrier to do it, okay? Yellow says, okay. And Mewtwo drops the barrier a bit, but also puts Yellow up on its shoulders, which is so awesome. Blaine says, let's go. The Dragonair rushes towards them as Lance says, are you sure you want to let down your precious barrier? Attack, he commands his Dragonair, and they rush in, striking at our heroes. Lance laughs, but Mewtwo has a firm hold on Yellow. Psy-Wave. This is the same attack he used when we first saw Mewtwo way back in the last art. Lance says, so, torrential rain and thunderclouds on our side, and a tornado on yours. A weather war? As Blaine commands Mewtwo to use Psy-Wave. The two Dragonair struggle against the psychic storm. And then they're caught up in it. Blaine saying, now, the vortex will suck you in. Lance, still with a smile, says, I see. A very clever trap, however. The Dragonairs start to link together. Lance saying, it won't do you much good to pull us into the center if it only gives us another opportunity to attack. The Dragonair have formed an Ouroboros. No, not actually, biting on each other's tails. As Blaine reels back saying, what? As they're struck out by the freaking donut of dragons. Mewtwo managing to grab both Blaine and Yellow and bound out of the way. Lance, now back with his Aerodactyl, says, dropping back to protect your trainer. Coward. Well, I'll finish you off in close combat. Aerodactyl, and Aerodactyl rushes towards Mewtwo. Blaine questions, takedown? Lance tells him, and not just any attack. My Aerodactyl's wings are as sharp as swords. So what? Is it a double edge or? Mewtwo brings out the psychic spoon. I'm not doing the effects on when I say this. Now, I forgot to do it last time around, so yeah. But I'm still going to say it with gusto. Lance is taken off guard as Yellow says that's as Mewtwo manages to parry Aerodactyl's wing attack. It might have been wing attack. Mewtwo and Aerodactyl continue to clash as Blaine says Mewtwo's psychic weapon, the spoon. I can't help but think of the tick. Spoon. Mewtwo and Aerodactyl continue to clash, which this clash makes Aerodactyl seem like a badass. But cuts start to appear all across Blaine's body, showing that while Mewtwo can survive the onslaught, Blaine, with his link to Mewtwo, cannot. Yellow says, but as you call the attacks, you'll be hit too. Lance must have thought of that when he brought the battle close. Can't you give the commands from further away? As Mewtwo continues to clash with Aerodactyl, Blaine explains, unfortunately, Mewtwo and I are unable to fight apart. Yellow turns to him saying, what? Blaine explains, I made this Mewtwo through genetic engineering. I had to use some of my own DNA. Yellow is shocked as Blaine continues saying, and to link us together, I introduced Mewtwo's cells into my body. That's the only reason I'm able to command this headstrong Pokemon. If we are too far apart, it puts too much stress on Mewtwo's body. I can't step away now. As Mewtwo continues to fight against Aerodactyl, Blaine explains saying, it usually lives in a specially engineered fluid. I fill a Pokeball with the fluid in order to transport it. Not only must we remain close together, but there's a limit to how long Mewtwo can remain outside his Pokeball in combat. I'd say about 3 minutes. What the heck? Really? Oh god. I guess Mewtwo would be too powerful otherwise. Can't just have Blaine out here with the world's most powerful psychic Pokemon. Well, one of it. At the time of when this was coming out, Mewtwo was the most powerful. Or Mew. We haven't seen Mew in a hot minute. Just kind of remembering that. He had that whole thing about chasing down Mew and then poof, Mew never appeared again after that moment with Green. Yellow questions, 3 minutes? Blaine tells her while his hand begins to ache, saying, any longer than that and my body starts to go. The degeneration only reached my elbow 2 years ago, but now it's up to my shoulder. Oh, if we're both to survive, we can't fight very long. We're a strange pair, eh? So let's end this fast. Lance is absolutely certain of victory right now. But while he's gloating, nail him. Yellow asks, you mean not attack his Pokemon, but Lance himself? Lance says, no, not him directly. Yeah, nah, we don't do that here. That's what the bad guys do. Even after Aerodactyl and the true Dragonair, Lance still has several Pokemon in his arsenal. But if he can't bring them out, Yellow says, the Pokeball. Blaine says, yes, smash the buttons on all those Pokeballs and he won't be able to open them. It's Mewtwo's only chance. Wow. You know what? That's such a rarity, actually going after the Pokeballs. And in most Pokemon battles, you wouldn't really do that. That's like, whoa, that's a little bit much, bro. But in a life or death situation, yeah. Yellow asks, but how can we? Blaine says, there's just one way. With Mewtwo's spoon. You take Aerodactyl. Let's go. Yellow says, right. As Blaine and Mewtwo go one way, Yellow and Pikachu go another. As Yellow commands Pikachu, saying, Pika, Mewtwo is commanded, and he morphs his spoon at Blaine's command as he says, now. The spoon goes behind Lance, turning into a fork. As Lance says, what? They manage to hit the buttons on Lance's Pokeballs. Blaine saying, that did it. Or did it? As Pikachu battles against Aerodactyl, Yellow turns saying, the transformed spoon. Its jagged points are flying at Lance's Pokeballs. Lance shouts no, as the fork just starts to jimmy at Lance's Pokeballs. Yellow thinking, it's been more than 2 minutes since Mewtwo began battling. Will they make it in time? As Mewtwo tries to do its work, like freaking jamming a fork in an electrical socket. Blaine starts to scream in pain as Lance's Pokeballs are flung off of his belt. In Chapter 81, Aerodactyl Redux. Lance's Pokeballs hit the ground, and so does Lance, much to Yellow's shock. Blaine says, we did it. As both he and Mewtwo slump to the ground, Yellow races over, saying, Blaine, Mewtwo. She thinks they fainted over Blaine, while Mewtwo's still, he's still conscious, but I don't think he's as powered up as he used to be. Yellow thinks 3, 2, 1, time over. It must have taken more than 3 minutes. She says, but we won. As she looks towards Lance and his broken Pokeballs. Mewtwo, you used up all of your powers with your Psywave and the energy you needed for the spoon attack, but you were able to damage Lance's Pokeballs so that he can't open them and release his Pokemon. We won. We beat Lance of the Elite Four, she says as she cheers with Pikachu. But Lance rises, laughing. He picks up his Pokeball, saying, that Mewtwo has some amazing power to damage not just Pokeballs, but an Ultra Ball this badly. Yellow blocks off Lance from getting to Blaine, as Lance says, that's just too bad. That still won't be enough to win, he says as he rips off his cloak. It is actually interesting that this is the Lance that you see, because one fun thing in the Pokemon games was always that the appearances of the trainers changed. If you look at the sprites for Red and Blue, as well as not so much Lance. Lance just had a jacket originally. Like in the beginning, Lance had a jacket. That was until he went to the full-on suit that he has nowadays. And it's just interesting to see Lance in that jacket that he never wears nowadays. It's even in Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee, that jacket of his is very understated in comparison to how it originally looked, where like you could tell he just had this really cool jacket, but it kind of also looked a little awkward with the cloak. The Yellow questions, what? Lance says, between the Psywave and the Spoonokinesis, oh my god. I'm sorry, that. Oh man, I love this manga. My Dragonair and Aerodactyl have used up a great deal of their health. My situation would be hopeless if I weren't able to get any more Pokemon out of their Pokeballs. Luckily, snaps his fingers. Oh, Aerodactyl slices at the balls, revealing them to be empty. Yellow says, the inside's empty. How can that be? Lance tells her, the rest of my dragon-type Pokemon that you tried to trap in their Pokeballs are over here. As Gyarados and knight rise out of the ground. Gyarados. Wait, isn't there a Pokemon missing? Where's his 6th Pokemon? Yellow says, underground, then that rumbling in the earth. Yeah, when everything started to kind of cave in, I thought maybe the island was alive or something, but it makes sense that that was just his other Pokemon waiting in the wing. And it says, those were the forces that pushed you up from within the cave. These two left their Pokeballs long before to hide underground and cause tremors. He says as he's lifted up by his Dragonite. So the Pokeballs that you two risked your life and limb to target, they were all empty. Dragonair, Dragonite, Gyarados, Aerodactyl. This is the Elite Four Lance's Dragon Force. Just can't stop. You can't say Dragon Force without me thinking of the band. Now, how will you fight? As his Pokemon flank him, Yellow readies herself, thinking Lance's entire force. What am I going to do? Oh, but Mewtwo brings out his Psychic Spoon and tries to make a move for Lance, only to be parried by Gyarados. Yellow calls out for Mewtwo. As Lance says, Mewtwo, I can see you're prepared for a final battle, but are you prepared to hurt your trainer too? Mewtwo pauses at this. As Lance says, did you think I wouldn't notice the connection between you and Blaine? You might be able to inflict some damage on me, but at what cost? Mewtwo has no answer for this. As Lance says, Blaine's body is badly injured, isn't it? Blaine, because of the exertion Mewtwo is putting out, continues to groan in pain, even unconscious. So Mewtwo has no choice but to return to his Pokeball, and his Pokeball heading over to Yellow. Yellow saying, Mewtwo, are you saying we can't afford to injure Blaine any further? Mewtwo and the Pokeball gives a nod, which I continue to actually think, man, you know what? Actually being able to see the Pokemon in the Pokeballs, that's pretty cool. Yellow, holding Mewtwo's Pokeball, turns to Lance, thinking Dragonair and Aerodactyl are pretty exhausted, but the other two still have maximum health. Mewtwo and Blaine brought it this far. The rest is up to me. As she brandishes more of her Pokeballs, Lance looks down on her, figuratively and literally saying, oh, still going to try? Yellow rushes in, bringing out all of her Pokemon, which, a very motley crew, all things considered. Lance is taken aback, saying, you're battling with that team? Yellow says, I am. Lance tells her, but none of them have even been evolved. Yellow tells him, I haven't let them evolve. She's so adorable. Lance flies off on his Dragonite saying, you're a strange one, but fine then. But I won't pull any punches. Yellow calls out, wait, as she goes in to rush off, but stops saying, whoops, turns, brandishing Mewtwo's Pokeballs, looking to Blaine, thinking, Blaine, please wait there for just a little while. Tucks away the Mewtwo's Pokeball, saying, okay, let's go, guys. And seeing all of her Pokemon rush into battle, Lance looks back saying, it won't be like that time in Vermilion City. But first I should rejuvenate Aerodactyl and Dragonair. Yellow, oh, does he have the same ability? Yellow shocked, saying, what? As Lance seems to be healing the true Dragonair in chapter 82. Eradicate. Yellow says, then the stories were true. Lance does have that power. She then feels a rattling at her belt, thinking, Mewtwo? Do you see that, Mewtwo? Mewtwo gives a nod from within the Pokeball, as she says, just like me, Lance is a trainer who can read Pokemon's minds and heal their wounds, which, okay, I see. That's what it is. That's what makes him so special, as Lance even heals his Aerodactyl's cuts and bruises, and he laughs. Yellow says, Green, the trainer who sent me on this journey, she knew he had that power. That's why she chose me for the mission. Mewtwo, do you know of the Viridian Forest? Viridian means an emerald hue, deep and rich. It's a vast and lush forest. It is said that once every few years a child is born possessing the mysterious power of the forest. And indeed, I am one who possesses those powers. But just because I hail from Viridian, can I truly go up against Lance? Can I truly overcome such incredible power? Mewtwo, gives her a determined look, saying, yeah, you better. And Yellow says, I know, I'll do my best. Thank you, Mewtwo. She looks to her Pokemon saying, everyone, she gives a smile, says, let's go. as they all race in. Lance watches her from atop his Dragonite as it comes to the very top of Circe Island, an active volcano. As Yellow and her Pokemon come to the brim of the volcano's top, she looks in saying, "This place." Lance calls out, "Ha ha ha, this is the volcano at the heart of the island. Nothing like that old inactive crater on Cinnabar Island." As Yellow gets worried of seeing the bubbling lava, Lance tells her, thanks to Gyarados and Dragonite burrowing into the ground and stirring things up, it's close to eruption now. What a better backdrop for our final fight, which is very right about that. It's freaking intense. Oh, Lance commands Dragonite, who rushes towards Yellow, striking out at the ground, causing lava to spout from underneath. Yellow shouts lava, spouts from the crushed boulders. She runs and dodges the flaming rock, saying, "Yo, hot, hot, hot," as Omanite tries to put her out. Lance tells her, "Have you ever seen such power? Dragon-type Pokemons are divine, mystical beings. They are difficult to capture, but with good care, their strength becomes unbeatable." As he pets Dragonite, Yellow says, "Of course," thinking when Blaine and Mewtwo were training, they were flinging away balls of fire. They must have foreseen a battle like this. I didn't even think about that. Come to think of it, Blue was doing the same. Those two are astounding. Compared to them, no, I can't be afraid. Dodie, Peck, Ratty, Super Fang. Oh, Dodie, Peck, Ratty, Super Fang. Okay, I didn't realize that's what was going on here. Doduo uses Peck, while Rattata uses Super Fang. But Dragonite manages to just brush off their attack, which, yeah, I mean, let's be real. Let's be real here. Ain't no way your Pokemon are tough enough for that. Dragonite, with one swing of its massive tail, manages to bat away Doduo and Rattata. Yellow says no. Gravy, Takedown, Omni, Water Gun, Kitty, String Shot, but all three of them are wafted away by Dragonite's tail as well, as they hit the ground and hard. Yellow shouts, "Oh no." Lance, looking down from Dragonite's paw, says, "Give up. None of your petty attacks are a match for the Dragonite's impenetrable armor. Now, will you flail on, or will you put your tail between your legs and run away?" Yellow, looking at her Pokemon, says, "I will not run." She looks to Lance with determination, telling him, "If I give up now, all the cities will be destroyed." Lance tells her, "Oh, but they won't simply be destroyed. I will rebuild them. I will cleanse the land of arrogant humanity and build a world where all Pokemon can live in freedom." Lance is one line away from calling other people monkeys. I'm just gonna be honest. Like, he hitting that real hard ghetto Frieza Tobirama. He hitting them vibes hard, man. That's all I'm saying. Like, hey. Yellow says, "That's wrong. It's wrong. Understand your rage. It's true that humans have done selfish things, taking away Pokemon homelands, stripping them of their food supply." Man, isn't this just Team Plasma all over again? Or I guess before Team Plasma. Yeah, I'm pretty sure this is what Team Plasma was kind of about. Well, no, they were about liberating Pokemon from their trainers, but they were a Pokemon rights group, which is hilarious because they would actually brandish Pokemon and fight and all that stuff. So, I mean, the idea wasn't terrible. It was the execution, which always tends to be a thing in most situations. Stripping them of their food supply, I've seen the results of that on my journey. But does that give you the right to punish the human race? Does that give you the right to raise cities? Pokemon are not tools for revenge. Even this battle of yours has hurt not just humans, but Pokemon as well. Lance, hearing the hypocrisy of what he's doing, gets angry, saying, "Silent." Yellow slams to the ground, saying, "I will not be silent. I hate fighting. I'm truly sad when any Pokemon are injured, even my opponent. Just now, you are healing both your Dragonair and your Aerodactyl, right? You have incredible power. Why do you use it for destruction? Why do you use it for evil?" Lance, growing angrier and angrier, says, "You arrogant little." But Yellow continues on, saying, The person who first introduced me to Pokemon once told me, if you care for them with a kind and gentle heart, then they'll always be your friend. Aren't Pokemon your friends too?" She looks at him with tears in her eyes, which, man, Steven gave a great comment previously saying that had Yellow been inspired by Lance, And it easily could have happened by Lance instead of Red. She easily could have been just like him. And I could easily see how his influence could have changed her. But it's something that I've come to really understand. What you say to children matter. What you say to young children could be the thing that affects them for the rest of their life. It takes just simple words that can mean nothing. Because there are things that the adults in my life when I was younger have said that have just stuck with me in ways that have both helped me and harmed me over the years. Now that's why my significant other who works as a teacher, and whenever she starts to question things, I'm like, no, you have the potential to be a force for good in these children's lives. If you can do it, then do what you can to, inspire these kids to do better, be better, and do more with their lives. Like, that kind of stuff is very important. But Lance grows angry, saying, shut up. I'll silence your insolent mouth. Dragonite, Fire Blast. Oh, and Yellow is hit point blank with that blast, screaming out. Lance tells her, and that's not just any fire blast. It takes its energy straight from the lava. As the boulder that Yellow is on starts to rumble and lava erupts from underneath her, Lance saying, now vanish in a river of lava. Meanwhile, at the Cinnabar Island gym, right, that's where the dragon Pokemon were headed, we have Miles and Evan outside the door. It's weird how they became secondary characters. Miles says a whole group of Dragonair, and the Dragonair start attacking the gym, destroying it pretty much. Miles shouts, the gym! Evan ducks away with his Haunter, saying, I'm sure it will be alright. We must trust the good trainers who are battling on Cersei Island. Meanwhile, back on Cersei Island, we have the continued battle as Sabrina faces off against Lorelei, as Sabrina holds on to the unconscious Green. And we have one of my other favorite Pokemon, Alakazam. Sabrina says, now, Lorelei. The end. Lorelei tries to command her Slowbro. She's too slow. As Sabrina tells Alakazam to use Psychic, which knocks back Lorelei and Slowbro. In chapter 83, bang the drum, Slowbro. But despite the psychic attack, Slowbro seems to fight through it, or tough it out, much to Sabrina's shock, as she thinks it's not working. Lorelei says, anticipating something like this, I had my Slowbro use Amnesia. And Slowbro just has this dumb look on his face. As Lorelei says, with Amnesia, it forgets the hit it's just taken and keeps fighting. Sometimes there is advantage to being slow. Which, God, what these comments? Sabrina readies herself as Lorelei says, of course its slowness only extends to attacks. Slowbro can be quite sharp. It knew about Horsey's ink drop play and brought it to me. And since the shell biting its tail is a part of its body, it can watch all 4 directions at once. Being bitten on the tail makes it a great deal more alert. So can you imagine what might happen if it were bitten on its head? Would you like to find out? She's thinking we get an image of Slowking. I guess a reference to, when was Slowking introduced? That was Johto, right? Yeah. And the biggest thing is the fact that also introduced in the movie 2000. Great reference. Lorelei says, do you see now, Sabrina? No matter what you do, the Elite Four will always be far ahead of you manifold. Jinx, lovely kiss. And Jinx unleashes a devastating smooch on Venomoth and Alakazam, as well as Sabrina, who tries to fight back against it, saying curse you. But in the confusion, she doesn't notice the cliff and slips off, leaving Green to dangle. The only thing keeping them together being the ice cuff. Sabrina slips further and further to the point where she herself is dangling off the cliff. Lorelei looks over with her Jinx saying, why don't you just ditch that dead weight? Think of a way to save yourself. You know there is only one way. Don't tell me you don't have the courage for that. Sabrina shouts back, she may be a former enemy, but we made a pact to fight together. As long as this battle lasts, we're partners, and I will not abandon a partner. Which, dang, gotta love when a former enemy has a lot more conviction. And Lorelei tells her, the very sentimentality that led to Team Rocket's demise. How fitting. When you fall together. Jinx pound. And Jinx smacks away Sabrina, who continues to try to protect Green. As Sabrina, Green, Alakazam, and Venomoth all plummet. Green finally manages to wake up just in time to see them going into a ravine. Lorelei and Jinx looking over. Lorelei waits for a bit and twirls to leave, only to hear an odd sound coming from the crevice. She turns, only to be shocked, saying, "What?" as Blastoise manages to lift up Green, Alakazam, Venomoth, and a downed Sabrina. Green smiling down at Lorelei. Lorelei says, "Blastoise water cannon. Still alive, eh? You're a stubborn one. You're probably smart enough, Green, to know why I'm targeted you from the beginning, aren't you?" Green says, "Because I helped Yellow and got in your way." Lorelei says, "Very good. I have been humiliated enough. Before I destroy you, then, I'd like to hear the reason behind your irrational acts." Green says, "All right. I feel like this is mostly just so she can give Sabrina a moment to wake the frig up." Green explains, saying, "After the Pokemon League tournament 2 years ago, I began a journey to find the Pokemon that abducted me and took me to that faraway land." We flash back. "Oh, is that?" Green is talking with someone, saying, "Lance, working on taking control of a giant flying Pokemon?" The figure, who is very obviously Silver, which raises a lot of questions, but oh god, I can only imagine what the lore for Silver is gonna be, especially considering how much more lore Johto had than in the original games. Well, that he had in the original game. Silver says, "Not just that. They say he's incredibly strong and has some kind of special power to counter it. It's so odd that he's on this side of things. And this doesn't mean he's a hero, but Green asks, "What? How do we counter it?" Silver says, "They say you'd need a combination of another Viridian trainer with similar powers and a Pokemon born in the same forest," which that is so specific. Like, Jeebus. Green thinks, a Viridian trainer, but as she floats by on her Jigglypuff, she sees Red's Pikachu running from Hitmonlee. Green says, "That's Red's Pika. Why?" Pikachu rushes into some nearby brush. Green says, "I lost it. It looked hurt. Something must have happened to Red." Later, in the Viridian Forest, we see a young Yellow fishing with her Rattata. She yawns and then gives a bit of a sketch, saying, "There." Green peeks out of the brush, saying, "That's weird. I could have sworn I went somewhere over here." She happens upon Yellow, saying, "Excuse me, do you happen to see a Pikachu run by here? It's hurt." And Yellow says, "No, I have not, but a moment, please." And then she uses her connection with Rattata, saying, "No, Ratty's not seen it either." Green is shocked, saying, You can tell? You understand what Pokemon are thinking? Viridian Forest possessing a special power? Can it be?" Jeez, the cool. The odds of chancing upon Yellow like this is like, wow. Suddenly, the wind causes Yellow's picture book to flip over to pictures of Red. Green says, "What?" She grabs the sketchbook, saying, "Can I see this for a second? You know this person?" Yellow says, "Yes. This is the one who saved me when I was lost in the forest 2 years ago. Only after I learned that he defeated the bad people who were using the forest." Green says, "So you look up to him. Have you seen him since then?" Yellow says, "No, I have not." Green thinks for a moment and then says, "Listen, I'm a friend of his. If it's all right with you, would you mind helping me a little bit?" Yellow questions, "Help?" Green tells her he happens to be in trouble right now. Yellow says, "What? The boy who saved me is in trouble?" Green tells her, "You may have the power to save him, so please, will you help?" And after a moment, Yellow gives a determined nod along with her Rattata. Green says, "So I devised a plan to send this young girl out to search for Red, and to act as a scout to help me dissect the Elite Forest battle strength. I taught her a few basic Pokemon battle skills, and the next day, she tells Yellow, "Now just remember, first I want you to look for Red's injured Pika, since it passed through here, and most likely head towards Pallet Town. After that, try to track down leads to Red. Rule number 1, never tell anyone about me or who might have sent you on this mission. Rule number 2, never give out your name. Our enemies are likely to use any information against us." I feel like this is Green telling her things that she was taught. Yellow says, "I understand. Well, I'm off then." And she heads off with her Rattata. Green watches, says, "Wait a minute," and then she slaps Yellow's hat on her head, saying, "Your identity will be a little hard to discover if they think you're a boy. So until you can use the fact that you're a woman as a weapon, we should probably hide that cute ponytail. I'm counting on you, Caballero Amarillo." So that was the alias. Okay, I get it. Maybe that's why Yellow's so attached to the hat. It gives her maybe a feeling of being someone stronger, more confident, more capable. And as she's grown, that might be the attachment she has to it. Yellow caballero, she hides underneath her sombrero. Sorry, I love the three caballeros. We've cut back to present day with Lorelai hearing the story. She says, I see. So you already put a microphone and transmitter on the hat before you put it on Yellow's head. Ah, okay, I get it. That's a good way of keeping tabs just in case. And that's how you knew Yellow was being attacked by the Elite Four. Right, that's how she was able to track her. Man, Green is kind of shady, but she's very smart. Green says, surprise. And if you're wondering why I told you all this, Green reaches for something. As Lorelai says, yes. Green pulls out a Pokeball saying, call it my victory. Strut. Clefable? As she something puffs out in front of Lorelai and her Jink. But Lorelai questions, where did they go? Green says, I'll give you a hint, Lorelai. Think about Clefable's powers. Lorelai turns to her cloister saying it can't be. Green says, but it is. Clefable's minimize. I hate that technique. Makes it's so much harder to hit. I've had a Clefable, I think it was a Clefable or something else, use minimize so many times my Pokemon could not hit it for anything. Just like minimize. And it's like, okay, I can't land a hit only by using something that's just an AoE attack. I can't hit it. In chapter 84, Clefabulous Clefable. Clefable has managed to grab the ice voodoo dolls out of Cloister's shell. As Green says, now, Blastoise, cover Clefable as it runs back here. As Clefable rushes over to Blastoise, Lorelai shouts, oh no you don't. But Blastoise hits Jinx, closing in on Clefable with a water blast. Green thinks that has got to work. And as Jinx shields itself from the torrent of water, Clefable trips, drops the ice dolls, and it breaks off at Green's arm. Oh, and Green's arm is no way. Her arm is cut off. And as Lorelai looks out in shock, Green yells out in pain. Oh my god. Lorelai says, fool, this is what you get for defying Lorelai. Green says, actually, I meant to do that. Didn't you tell Sabrina to get rid of my dead weight the hard way? Well, now that that's done, then Green passes out saying, I can. And Lorelai looks like worried too, like, oh, I didn't actually want that to happen. Like, she shells, you're a fool, Green. It's over now. It's all over. Like, she seems to like really feel bad about it. Like, oh my god. Like, there's a massive softer side that's just like, He turns to walk away as, I get it. Okay, I should have known. Suddenly, Green's severed hand starts to move, and something extends out of it, as we see that it was actually Ditto, as it goes in and wraps up Lorelai and her Jinx. Lorelai questions, Ditto? Green rises up saying, yeah, Ditto. Green takes off her jacket saying, I told you. This was my victory strut. My real arm is right here. How she was managing to hide all that, I don't know, man. Green tells her, I knew I wasn't going to be able to beat any one of your ability without some trickery. That's why I put on this jacket as soon as I got to the island. Ha ha ha. Lorelai now captures says, very clever. To pull that off against a member of the Elite Four? Amazing. Green tells her, you were pretty amazing yourself. Lorelai tells her, thank you, but it is a pity. Our great plan, the Pokemon Refuge, is it all going to be for naught? Will there one day be no more Pokemon? Like my poor seal? I truly tried my best to... And she conks out. Green says, you tried your best, but you were fighting the wrong battle. I was guilty of the same thing once. They should wake up after a little while, Ditto. Ditto returns to Green, and she says, now to wake Sabrina. And Sabrina is already over, a little angry, saying, I'm already awake. Green is shocked, saying, since when? Sabrina says, since your arm was torn off. So all that time I was really chained to a Ditto? And all that time we could have gone our separate ways whenever I wanted to? From the very beginning, you were tricking me. Green says, you know what they say, to fool your enemies, first fool your friends. Sabrina grows angry as Green says, so you do forgive me, right? Sabrina tells her, don't hold your breath. I actually love their relationship. And I actually do like that we saw a softer side of Lorelai in all this. In terms of who feels the most innocent out of this, you have Bruno, who's literally being mind controlled. Lorelai, who was let's be honest, indoctrinated, which that's really kind of messed up. I'd say Lance, who is doing the wrong thing for the right reason, and then Agatha, who's just bitter. Just bitter because her friend didn't want to play after a while. Speaking of Bruno, we cut over to him and his battle against Red. Bruno agonizes. He says, Red, it happened again, the terrible headaches and then the blackout. Bill, still inside the barrier by the magneton, says, Red, watch out for this guy. He's mighty powerful, and his Hitmonlee's arms stretched. They're the ones that busted up my house. Red says, thanks, Bill, but I already know how strong he is. Hey, Lieutenant Surge, you mind leaving this battle to me? Surge says, I have to admit that I'd used up most of my energy before you got here. I doubt I'd be able to fight at full power anyway. No, it's not just that. No, Red says, no, it's not just that. It's him. I've got something to settle with Bruno of the Elite Four. Surge says, you haven't changed a bit, Red. Even if I tell you not to, would you listen? Surge is lifted up towards Bill by his magneton. Bruno thinks, my Hitmonlee destroyed his house. I have no memory of that. Bruno laughs, saying, was my Hitmonlee being used without my knowledge? And why is the memory of my battle with Red in pieces? What are these headaches and this memory loss? None of that matters now. Now nothing matters. I stand face to face with the one I deem the perfect opponent, and this time I shall be able to fight a pure match. Prepare for battle, Red. Red says, you're on, Bruno. Bruno has his Hitmonchan use Fire Punch against Red's Venusaur. Red readies his Poliwrath, saying, blast it. Fire-type move against my Grass-type Venusaur. Should I change Pokemon? No. Hitmonchan then flips in and is commanded to use Thunder Punch. Red dodges out of the way on his bike, thinking, just as I thought, if I had changed Pokemon because it was a Fire-type move, it has plenty of different types of attacks. It wouldn't have done any good to change. Good thing I didn't bring out Poliwrath. Bruno commands. Hitmonchan's fists contain the power of fire, electricity, and ice. In other words, it's like having 3 Pokemon in one. As Venusaur is hit by another Fire Punch, Red says, luckily we have a Pokemon like that too. As Red brings back his Venusaur, yeah. Oh, the stones that Yellow had looked for before. So Red was there in the other world. Had Red just been traveling around getting what he needed to take back on the Elite Four? Because I was thinking about this before too. If Red really was frozen in ice or captured or wherever he was, as long as everyone was taken, he'd be dead by the time they got to him. So more than likely, that figure that Evan saw in the picture of the frozen Red got Red out, and Red just started traveling in secret, using the cover of people thinking that he was gone to get what he needed to strike back against the Elite Four. As Red brandishes the evolutionary stones, Lieutenant Surge and Bill are shocked, saying, those are stones. Red then brings out Eevee, much to Bruno's shock. As Red says, okay, Eevee, change into what first? Bruno says, whatever you might throw, this way. We'll knock it down. Ice Punch. But Eevee leaps towards the attack. As Red says, if you're leading with ice, we'll counter with this, the Firestone. And Red causes Eevee to change into Flareon. Man, that would be kind of cool to have an Eevee that could actually change into its various different evolutions on the fly. Also, Jolteon, one of my favorite Pokemon. One of my favorite evolutions before things changed up a bit. Bruno says, don't flinch, Hitmonchan. And Hitmonchan rushes at Flareon. Red says, next, Waterstone. And he brings out Vaporeon, who uses a torrent of water. Bruno says, what? Impossible. Red says, it's true. My Eevee can change into Vaporeon, Jolteon, and Flareon at will, and then change back again. And geez, can it change into all the evolutions with a stone present? Team Rocket was responsible for that mutation, but now Eevee wants to use its powers for me. It will suffer from this power, since it can't control it by itself, but I have possession of the evolutionary stones. They don't lose their power no matter how many times they're used, which is one hell of an ability. You can have any Pokemon you need at any type at any time. It's literally what type Null is. Or no, Silvally. Silvally is the one who is able to just cycle through different type. Yeah, I don't know about many other Pokemon that can change their typing, but to be able to jump between alternate evolutions, that would be awesome. Red tells Bruno, the energy in the stone cells boosts Eevee's powers. As Vaporeon leaps toward Hitmonchan, Bruno says, Machamp, help Hitmonchan. Red says there's help on this side too, and he brings out his Poliwrath. As two Pokemon go against two Pokemon. Vaporeon against Hitmonchan and Poliwrath against Machoke. Machamp. God, I'm always so confused with that. Bruno says, Machamp, it's time for you to take off that belt. Oh? Lieutenant Surge and Bill are shocked, saying, what? So there was a secret hidden in that belt? And as Machamp takes off the belt, he easily manages to dominate both Poliwrath and Vaporeon. As Red calls out to his Eevee, having de-evolved. As his Eevee falls, his Poliwrath is still hanging on, being loomed over by Hitmonchan. Bruno says this belt usually falls off when Machoke evolves into Machamp, but Machamp insisted on keeping it on. It absorbs excess power and conserves it, and then when it's taken off, releases it all at once. Red tells his Poliwrath, water gun, no effect. The water gun doesn't affect Hitmonchan, who just picks up Poliwrath and then slams him on the ground, pinning him. Red calls out to Poliwrath as Bruno says sorry, but this match is over. Your ace in the hole Eevee is out of it. You have no Pokemon left who can take on my Machamp. What the heck? Oh. Suddenly, the water underneath Hitmonchan and Poliwrath starts to move and reforms into Vaporeon that lunges toward Hitmonchan. Bruno saying, what? Vaporeon inside the puddle left by that water gun? Red says, you got it. It's acid armor, a melting attack. Eevee made it look like it fell when it was actually climbing up as water, which, dang. And finally, the Thunderstone, Jolteon's Pin Missile. The Pin Missile assaults both Hitmonchan and Machamp, seemingly downing both of them, I guess. Bruno takes a moment and laughs, saying, astounding. I'm beaten. Red, I don't care about the plan that Lance and the others had from the start, and I don't plan to join or agree with them now. If your friends are as good as you, Red, they may actually defeat Lorelei and the rest of them, which, basically has already happened. Humans and Pokemon can train to be as strong as they want to be. All my life I've lived with powerful, well-trained Pokemon, and I intend to continue that. This was a most satisfying map. Thank you, he says as he turns and walks away. Alright, and that's the end of this section of videos. We got to see some very great Pokemon battles. Green taking on Lorelei was an awesome matchup, just because of the duplicitous nature of Green. I love that each of them, the Pokemon Dex holders, use their abilities to their best in these fights. Because in a normal Pokemon battle, you don't really have the threat to your own personhood, but in these fights, it's every time, baby. That's where the threat of the enemy team comes in most Pokemon games. Whether it be Team Rocket to not so much Team Skull. After a certain point, the enemy team is a little bit duplicitous in how they're portrayed, because Team Skull and Team Yell may seem like the big bads, they're usually not, spoiler alert. But getting to see Green be a little bit, shady in how she acts, Blue's strategy, Red managing to power through with his own little bit of trust in his Pokemon, and Yellow's gentle nature being able to shine through and help out her Pokemon in a pinch. It all just works. It fits very cohesively, and that makes it very fun and exciting. Despite the fact that it's just people telling other animals to have commands and do certain things, it's just very thrilling to a certain degree. I can only imagine what it looks like to someone who's not very involved in the world of Pokemon, or just never really understood, or just sees it as glorified cockfighting, let's be honest. But stuff like this shows that there's something deeper to all of that, and maybe that's just me, I don't know. But I'm excited. We're coming upon the last few chapters, and I can't wait to see how our heroes manage to bring this to a conclusion before Kanto gets razed to the ground fully. There's a little bit of time left, let's see. And Yellow is Yellow's really up against the wall. She is not a trainer by all means. Again, I keep saying it, she would be as great as a breeder or a coordinator. Just, I love that the world of Pokemon, despite the fact that stuff like that doesn't really do much in terms of the Pokemon games nowadays, I love those options back in the day, that there were other avenues for how you play Pokemon, or what Pokemon trainers could do. Now, that has been something that has never left my mind, and again, though the games don't implement that nowadays, I'm still glad that those were things and options that could be out there for other trainers. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. What was your favorite battle amongst all of these, or just in general? Also remember to like, comment, subscribe if you enjoyed the ride. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, I've been Duuz-Diz-Din, and I hope to see you later. So then, take care. Bye-bye.